We have our next we have a group of presenters and a panel conversation that is going to happen. I'd like to invite all of those folks up to the stage. We got Tim, Kelly, Veronica, and Andrea, and then Jordan. Jordan Freitas is going to be our moderator. So I believe, Tim, you are going first.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here. I always feel really honored and privileged and delighted to share space with LMU colleagues. So, excited about this panel in particular. The reason I think I was invited to facilitate this panel in particular is I teach an ethics class, computer science. It's called Computing Context and Ethics. That counts towards the core, so it's rigorously ethical, and really gets into the theories of justice. So that's me. A little bit about each of our panelists, and then I think I'll let them dive into their own intros in more depth. Andrea highlights the importance of integrating AI into business education to prepare future leaders who can address global challenges. In her Business for Good course, students learn to apply bottom-up thinking and design sustainable solutions for low-income communities, aligning their projects with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. So by incorporating generative AI, she hopes to enhance innovation, bridge the digital divide, and foster responsible leadership among incoming students. Kelly recently conducted an in-class exam where students were required to use AI tools, library databases, and the broader internet to answer both theoretical and practical questions. The student feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and the quality of their work was among the best she has seen at the undergraduate level. This suggests that AI can significantly enhance both learning outcomes and student engagement. Tim's final project involves students acting as Wikipedia editors to improve the accuracy and depth of cancer-related psychology articles. Using the Wiki EDU dashboard, students learn how to evaluate, edit, and contribute reliable, well-sourced information while fighting misinformation online. They also write a final paper to reflect on the scientific merit and public health significance of their edits. The assignment is adaptable across discipline and aims to cultivate critical thinking and public engagement skills. Veronica focuses on opportunities and challenges of using AI to support English learners and multilingual learners. She underscores the need for cultural responsiveness, robust professional development, and meta awareness in effectively implementing evolving tools like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. By personalizing AI for uh, ELs and MLs, English learners and multilingual learners, educators can enhance learning and foster positive, equitable outcomes, also while keeping pace with rapid technological change. So I think we're going to have a great chat.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction and overview. I'll just briefly really offer some highlights and some key points of the Wikipedia assignment that Jordan introduced that I use in my capstone senior seminar course. And this is an assignment, by the way, that is, as Jordan mentioned, is adaptable. Any ways in which the disciplines you teach or the content you teach ends up at all on Wikipedia and could be benefited from current sourcing and rigorous vetting of information, this assignment could be adapted to your discipline. And so I teach a course called The Impact of Cancer. I'm a psycho-oncologist by training. So the design of the assignment that I've integrated is to train students as Wikipedia editors. And as they're diving deep in their final year of their undergraduate curriculum here and understanding the cutting edge science of the intersection between psychology and oncology, this assignment is really well positioned for them to be able to evaluate public-facing pages on Wikipedia that oftentimes people who are diagnosed with cancer and their loved ones will search and find information. And so our course is very well positioned to train students in Wikipedia editing and sourcing to be able to make sure that that information is accurate, it's rigorously vetted, and it's reflecting the current science that they're learning in this course. So what we do is Wikipedia has an education platform, and they actually have wonderful resources and support. So this is not something carte blanche that you'd have to go in and design from your course, but something that you can kind of customize. They have wonderful training modules that you can integrate as well. And so the first step would be to apply to the Wiki EDU platform, describe your course, describe your assignment, and what you're hoping to leverage from your partnership with them, how long your course is, for example. In both the cases, I've done this twice now. My course was approved without any edits or feedback. I think they're the WikiEDU folks are very responsive, very helpful, and I think they're very enthusiastic to partner with college educators and college classes. This is a snapshot of my course that's ongoing right now in this current semester. So you see that the students right now have currently edited 18 Wikipedia articles across the website. They've currently made, 258 different unique edits. I have 16 students in this class. So this is lets me sort of track what's going on. The timeline helps me break down and scaffold the assignment week by week. Again, integrating different training modules as well as sourcing requirements for Wikipedia. The articles page lets me pre-curate a set of articles that are deemed by Wikipedia as particularly poor quality, that are in need of more rigorous sourcing, or for example, if there's paragraphs that have without citations, it will flag and be able to integrate into my dashboard here. So I can sort of precede students with some good choices if they want to get started. Happy to talk about sort of how I pace this, but one of the things I love about this course or about this assignment is that it's a final project, but they do work on it all 15 weeks. So from week 1 through week 15, they have due dates and contributions that build towards this larger picture here. This is an example of how I could see an article that's being edited. It's a little bit cut off probably at the bottom here, but essentially what I'm showing you is an article. I can look at sort of what the essentially tracked changes are. So here, highlights, this is a cancer-related fatigue page, but there was no particular section on breast cancer, the ways in which fatigue is experienced post breast cancer diagnosis. So my student here added these 2 sentences with a rigorous source to be able to, contribute some new contributions to this page in particular. I can then see, for example, this is this student's specific contribution, and I can toggle between students, toggle between articles. So from my side, to sort of vet their contributions, there's a checkpoint there as well. This is from last year, and in terms of the title of our innovation and impact, one of the things I share with the students is that their work on this final project has real world impact. This is viewed by people looking up these pages. And so this shows you a year out from last spring's course. The pages that students have edited from that course have collectively been viewed over 4 million times by the public. My students as a collective added 311 current rigorous new references onto Wikipedia pages. They've added, 23,000 words. So they're adding to the knowledge base in Wikipedia. And then they write a final paper that sort of assesses and reflects how their contributions triangulate with their experience in the course and what they're learning from the academic context as well. Okay, that's what I'll share there. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, so this is me, asking a prompt in class. How does motivation impact job performance? I teach OB and management theory. So within 30 seconds, I get this. I get a student click, click, click. And here are all the ways that motivation impacts job performance. 0 engagement, 0 struggle, 0 of the things we all want as educators for them to do. So in the moment, I had this epiphany that I said, wait a minute, how do you know that this is true? Because you've all just used chat and chat told you this, but this came from somewhere, right? These are sophomores that I'm teaching, and they all blink, 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 blink. So I said, wait a minute. This came from somewhere. This came from studies. This came from research. So I said, you now know, you've now got a bunch of different potential variables here. So I need you to go to Google Scholar and find some scholars who've done studies on these variables. And then once you've got that list, I need you to go to the article and I need you to tell me something about how it is that we have learned that these are the factors that, these are the things that connect motivation to job performance. So I did that as a class session. And then as their brains were exploding and they were actually thinking and engaged and talking to each other in a scholarly way, I thought, what a fabulous exam question, right? You can have your computers open, you can use everything, except you cannot communicate with each other. in the exam. And so that became my exam question. So I made them go connect the dots on and figure out the variables. So they had to go through several layers to do this. And it was nothing that the feedback I got was it was nothing like any exam they'd ever had. They actually quite liked it. It took them, I had told them I was probably going to ask this on the exam, so you better get good at using Google Scholar and figuring out how to go to the literature. I did limit them to US based organizations because I wanted the context to be the context that we were teaching in the class. And I had all but one student. Oh, I told them I would also read the article. So it better be right. You can't, don't let chat hallucinate for you because I'm going to go read them. In hindsight, it took me a long time to grade this exam. So I will rethink that in the future. However, there was only one student who actually hallucinated a citation and made up how it worked. Every other student in the class actually found an article. Many of them did find the same article and were able to correctly talk about how the study was conducted, et cetera, et cetera. So I considered that a big win because here was a way that they could actually use this for good and basically do PhD level work as a sophomore. So that was cool. So second, and then I found this author online. She has um, a I think she's a podcast, but she also has a website where she does a blog, and she has come up with this. Thank you. This new hierarchy. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. And I wanted to make sure I shared that today. And so I guess what we were doing was at the understand level, right, for this assignment. So I have two more quick assignments I wanted to share with you. The second one was to actually create a training module. And the only way you could possibly get this done inside a exam period was to use AI. And so this I would suggest, so there's a lot of detail here on what they had to do. I had already taught them about adult learning and Bloom's and all of this. So they basically had to reproduce, but they had to create their own. So I would call this the create level of this hierarchy. And then my final assignment for AI exam question was for them to take and create a job description and then create some case studies that tested the job description and then iterate their job description based on the feedback. If you had to write a review based on your job description to point out the flaws that they had in their original job description. So a lot of the vagaries that kind of came with their first pass. So this I would suggest was at the collaborate level of the AI hierarchy. So that's my stuff.
Awesome. Thank you.
So happy to be here, and I will be sharing some of the more of the context of the work that we've been doing, applying some of the beginning of choosing to engage and be innovative to have some impact with our students. So I'm part of the Center for Equity for English Learners. We're part of the School of Education, and we focus on growing educators' mindsets and practice to really ensure equity and excellence in our system. And this is our team. We focus on research, policy, and practice. I've been a bilingual educator for over 28 years now. And so that is more of the focus of my role in our center in practice, even though our work really brings all those three branches together. So Dr. Farsindar gave us an amazing presentation about the benefits of AI. And there's a lot of challenges, right, and concerns, especially among teachers who are not very tech savvy, like they say. And so that is part of what we do. We engage with educators in the field, pre-service and in-service educators. And so through our certificate programs, our publications, our feature speakers, and also at state and national level conferences, we engage with educators to help them choose to innovate in their own classrooms. And there's a lot of fear in classrooms where teachers are still starting to feel comfortable with emailing and browsing the internet. How do we help them to really engage with the speed uh, at which technology is advancing, especially with AI and all of the concerns that are happening around that are the concerns that exist around cheating, around the ethical use of AI. How do we help and encourage educators to choose to do it so that they can impact the students that are going to end up in the classrooms in many of our universities? And so a lot of the administrators in schools and districts are already using AI in programs for their schools, but that's not being translated into the classroom. And so, how do we help them? As 40% of them are already piloting programs. And so, sometimes we're visiting schools, we're working with teachers that have to use or that are being asked to use some programs that might not necessarily be honoring of all languages or honoring of students' perspectives and cultural backgrounds. And so there's a growing interest, but there's also a lot of fear in that. So we do a lot of work with that. So really bringing in some of those perspectives that are so needed when working with multilingual students, with diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds, and really wanting teachers to recognize, like we heard this morning, all the bias that exists there, the hallucinations, the ways that I was exploring a program and it gave me a percentage of you are 74%, your speech is 74% as a native speaker. And so, what does that mean when programs are telling students that multilingual students, they're being labeled as something almost as a native speaker? And so, professional learning is the key. And so, that is the challenge that we face, that professional learning needs to be customized, that it needs to be collaborative. It also needs to encourage teacher and student agency. The meta linguistic awareness that we use so much in the language conversations needs to be there, and teachers need to model that for students to really think about how they're using, how they're engaging with the AI programs. And so the ethical and practical applications of AI, how do we bring that to teachers so that they can train and they can bring those levels of understanding and willingness to explore to students in our different contexts. And so AI is an open door. It's open AI is an open door to a lot of possibilities for multilingual students to support and to bring in some of those scaffolds that they need. But it's also a lot of the concerns that we bring. And so, how do we ethically engage in conversations and practices that are going to build teachers, pre-service teachers, and in-service teachers, to really honor the linguistic and cultural background of our students?
Thank you.
Actually going to be using a web demonstration. I have my student Antonia Pinto, who is here today to share a really exciting AI platform. But before I do that, I wanted to share a little bit more about Business for Good. I have dual teaching responsibilities. The Department of Management and Leadership, I'm an organizational psychologist. I teach managing people organizations. And also part of the instructional team of this flagship Business for Good program that we're super proud of, the business school. And so our responsibility, because we have a lot of students coming through these courses, is to really make sure that we prepare them for this very turbulent world of business and to be responsible business leaders. I wanted to just put it into a two context of the Business for Good program, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. The mission for the business school is that we advance knowledge and develop business leaders with moral courage and creative confidence to be a force for good for the global community. And I'm sure that Dean Smith would be very proud of me that I could actually say this. She wants all the students who come through orientation know this by day one when they come to LMU CBA. The other context is, as Jordan mentioned, we have this global goal, the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN nations, which has, getting rid of poverty, hunger, and all these 17 goals. And anytime I have a chance to wear my SDG dress, I always do. So these are the two contexts. But before I get in, I wanted to actually give a big shout out to my team for the Business for Good course. All the incoming freshmen, first semester, second semester, or transfer students go through our training. And we reach this is the 5th year. I've been teaching this for the last 4 years, kind of shaping it with our leader, Professor Madhu Viswanathan, who is an amazing human being, and he's pioneered the subsystem marketplace, which is the core aspect of our course. And I also have Noriko Sato-Ward, who is Assistant Director for the Business for Good program. My other team member is Ron Duncan, Christine Mikado, and our new member is Ruth Akumbu. So we have a very strong instructional team reaching about 12 to 14 sections every semester. So we have about 800 students, about 150 student projects that go through our training. So just a little bit of context in terms of what we do. We use this project-based approach. Students, we put them in this context we call subsystem marketplace, which is, just think about extreme poverty all the way to low-income families. And we ask them to kind of imagine and be part of this bottom-up understanding of really being on the ground, understanding the microcosm, the community, how people in that community feel, think, relate, create, sustain, and how the psychological impact of the context. And we use actually technology, which is extremely critical, I think, to remain competitive in the world of business. And we do this in 3 or 4 steps. Actually, we're going to be integrating a little bit of experiment with VR, which is going to be next week. Super excited about that. Is that we use immersive exercises, images, image generation, 360 videos, and virtual interviews to have students imagine and put a project together, which is the entire semester, designing a for-profit, sustainable subsistence marketplace, helping people in underserved communities anywhere in globally, right? So they actually identify the problem opportunity for a business. They create a solution and design this solution and implement this solution. With the goal is that at the end of the semester, we actually have a pitch to investors. And Callie has been an amazing friend and colleague who is always coming to the end of the semester pitch, which includes the entire community. These are amazing student projects, super creative. And so we use immersive exercises to generate ideas, understand the need. And then we also use virtual interviews where we have Zoom to connect people on the ground in Uganda, Tanzania, Honduras. They actually are part of our team, right? Who are there with a translator to help students fine-tune their needs and problems, help them to kind of, looking at the solution. Is this really meeting the needs of the customers? And then we now started to integrate AI for the design phase of the solution, right? Really prototyping. We would love to have the product actually rolled in and touch it and feel it with the solution or services to kind of show us. We don't have that yet. We need another couple of semesters for that. But we use AI for the design phase, and it has been tremendously helpful. This semester, we used a new technology or new platform, Moodle Box AI, which is a comprehensive, collaborative, really cutting-edge platform. And Antonio Pinto, who is my student from Business for Good, is actually the ambassador for this platform. So I have 117 free seats for my students this semester. We're exploring it. I love it because it has a community aspect of it, peer or person to AI and person to AI. So they have the community aspect of it, that they can include me as a team aspect in their creation, a generative AI, both text and image, and it has a multi-platform integrated in this. So tremendous opportunity. So thank you so much. And I don't have, if you have time to show this platform, Antonio, we'll see how we can do that. So very excited about Business for Good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I love hearing about, or I just am really psyched that our students get to learn from you all. So to dig in a little bit more, I'm curious what ways, these are all really rich learning experiences, and I'm curious in what ways do you encourage your students to reflect on those experiences, both to improve their understanding and also to refine their practical skills in using these? So anyone would like to?
Can share. As we started exploring AI, I am an instructor for one of our certificate programs, the Academic Spanish certificate program, and it is ChatGPT, wonderful translator. It's been very helpful. But then we started noticing that things were being submitted that are not necessarily human produced, or that had like the full, even the format, right, of the chat gpt friend. And so really needing to engage with what is the purpose of AI and how do we use it as a tool versus something that creates the work for me or answers the questions for me. And so I started just reaching out, Elaine. I was like, please help me. What is our stand on the use of AI, and what are the directions that we have? And so we have added the use of AI as a tool to our program, so that we have defined how it should be used, and we want it to be used as a tool, not as the end product. But so we have created prompts to help students learn to innovate the creation of prompts. And so the prompt engineering has been it's a needed thing, but we have really had teachers work through their own prompts using some of our examples, but creating their own prompts and really sharing, how did you refine these? How did you actually end up with this product by going through these steps? And so that has been very helpful in helping teachers use the tool and not feel like I'm cheating, but I'm using it. And here is something where I can analyze and I can apply what I'm learning from that.
I'll add on to that too. The reflection piece is one of my favorite parts of the Wikipedia assignment, because I ask students at the start what their perceptions of Wikipedia as an information source is, and it's very negative. And I think it's partly sort of their, academic training of like, you don't go to Wikipedia as a primary source when writing a research paper, and so they're like almost overly cautious or negative about like the reliability of information on Wikipedia. But it's really interesting to see that shift when they then become the producers of that information on Wikipedia, and then the responsibility of making sure that that information is accurate. And so I really love seeing that shift for them, and also having them reflect on, when they're reading these articles, these empirical articles, they're very dense. They're dense and they're tough to understand, but that's what they're here in this class to do, is to reap the meaning from that. And then their position of privilege to be able to then summarize in plain language to a public facing page on Wikipedia. So I think it's also very empowering for them to be able to say, we from the seniors in this class are actually able to take this dense information, which these articles aren't publicly accessible all the time, right? We access them often through our library. And we're able to take the information, actually make it accessible to the general public. One, the information itself, but then two, the way we write it, So I think it's cool to see them reflect on that process too, of that transformation.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. Another aspect of Business for Good I wanted to share with you is we love this part is that students at the end of the semester actually write a reflection paper or exercise on Business for Good, what the course meant to them and their learning. And Business for Good, actually, an important element is that we see good as the heart of the business. And it actually takes a little bit of time for students to realize that actually, no, we're not talking about nonprofit business development. We're actually talking about for-profit businesses with the goal that you address the needs of the customers in sustainably, right? And we include in their model, they must have the triple bottom line, which is economic, social, and environmental sustainability integrated in their business idea. So if any of these three missing, the triple bottom line, they're not, the investors are not going to be interested in investing and launching their business idea. So at the end of the semester, we ask them to kind of reflect. Even during the semester, we have exercises to, immersive exercises. What did you learn? What did it feel like being there? What were the aspects of that community in terms of time, transportation, quality of air? There's a lot of aspect of these communities that we put them through these 360 videos and exercises. What is that? What did you learn? What was the insight? And by the end of the semester, we asked them, like, connect this to your personal realm, like not just in class, but outside the work. What does Business for Good mean to you? How do you see business as a force for good, which is the heart of the business part of your life? Can you imagine developing this further? And then what does it mean to you in your career, in your major? And also in the global community, right? So outside of your work, the workplace, and the global community, integrating these SDGs, diversity, equity, inclusion, and so what does it mean to you? So the students have, a paper to write, and this is one of the Enrico we always talk about that we love reading this because some of the insights that come back is I never thought about Business for Good as a um, for-profit business idea. I definitely will be integrating this idea. I see the competitive advantage of going above beyond the needs of the customer. So that was something that part of our course, this reflective piece.
Awesome. Thank you. This next question, I think is really builds on what you're saying, and I'm curious if any of you all incorporate ethical frameworks directly into the project, and in particular, how do students respond to ethical concerns that come up?
I was going to say that in the exam, the one struggle I did have was students not wanting to use the AI because, just like Tim was saying, they've been programmed to believe that it's the wrong thing to do. And so I really had to encourage them. And there were some students who were sort of like, for example, in the one where they had to do the job description, they were manually sort of struggling through the job description. I'm like, wait a minute, stop everything. Why are you doing that? You're wasting a lot of time because you can take what input that, prompt engineer yourself a good job description or what you think is good. And then we're using this technique to critique it by actually creating case studies and then going back and saying, okay, how did your job description hold up against the case study that happened? Were you rewarding the right things, etc.? So I do think that that's a stumbling block. And really sort of having that come out in real time as to an ethical use of this is to collaborate with you and help you do your work better. An ethical use of this, of course, is not to pass it off as your own work in a context where we actually want you to do that work. So yeah, definitely the struggle.
I think, I'm going along with what you're saying about okay, I'm not going to use these. We see a lot of teachers in the field that are skeptical and they just choose not to get involved. They don't want to because of the ethical concerns, because of, I've heard it's bad, right? And so we see a shift happening, but it is a tendency to be scared and I don't want to try it. And so really trying to encourage teachers, you mentioned like, what are you doing? You're wasting all this time with so many of the tools that are, that could help you plan and find activities and goals and things. Of course, bringing them back to your lens as the teacher, the educator. But I think we're still breaking through that haze of fear and like, no, I better not use that.
A brief thing I'll add too is that it's challenging to get students to start adding to Wikipedia, but it's even more challenging to get them to start removing. Because when things are not properly sourced or misleading or don't meet the ethics standards of the sourcing for what merits a Wikipedia contribution, I empower them too to, go through the channels to make those revisions to the existing sections. I think that's a hard thing to do, but just giving them the scaffolding and the support. There's a workflow, there's a communication workflow. Part of it too is I think there's a social concern, like anybody can edit Wikipedia. So that person might get notified and then there might be a back and forth. So there's a little bit of that too, which, I support them through. But, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I love how we're talking about addressing students' hesitations, and um, I'm also curious, what advice would you all have for other educators who are hesitant to adopt these emerging, evolving technologies and innovative practices into teaching?
Um, First of all, thank you so much for that question. I think being creative and part of our business, school's mission is to have that creative confidence and curiosity. I think as educators, I think we can also take that risk and explore. I'm very excited this semester that with Antonio Pinto, who is my student, he's here actually. If you want to just say hi to everybody, he is the ambassador for Boodlebox AI, which is a platform we're exploring. And students are using AI. I mean, whether we know, like it or not, they are already in our classroom. So a matter of like, how can you partner with the students? It's not going to go away. And the prompt engineering that Anna talked about, I don't have time this semester to kind of help them with that skill. Would love to have perhaps a skill part of any of our courses, or maybe my course, maybe in the future. But in terms of AI in the classroom, I'm not only interested in the output, the design, for example. I ask my students, can you please walk me through what were the prompts? How did you get here? So this way I can kind of tap into their thinking. There's a little bit of logic on how they got here, but also we need to know that with every reshaping or prompt redesign, we may have a different image. Sometimes I ask them, this looks like a machine, right? Can you fine tune this image and just be there in the context as a human? What would be a different way to look at this prototype, product, service? Like I asked them to show me a different perspective of the product they designed, you know, vertical farming would be a solution, or some sort of solar paneled, water tool or something like that, right? So show me the image that if I, as a human and coming to see these products as an investor, I would be interested in investing in your idea. So AI can help us with the design, make it alive, come alive. We just help the students to fine tune it, and I ask them to send me the prompt so I can be part of the process. And Moodle Box, I'm going to add that, is that I can actually be part of the community because it has a collaborative feature, as I mentioned already. Students can invite me to their team so I can be part of the learning. Like they can work together, they can collaborate, which is what I love about this platform. They can collaborate, put the project digitally as a team, and also I can be part of that. So I can kind of follow their thinking, which is again, kind of it's an ethical dilemma, right? So I'm here in part of it. I like that.
So the advice I'm hearing is it's super effective learning experience, and we got to try it anyway.
Yes, just do it. Yes, I would echo that. I think, you mentioned an evolving, emerging, fastly changing technologies. And I think my advice to educators is just give it a try. I'm not an expert, but I give it a try. And then you can make a decision about how to engage in the ethical use of that, because we really want to train our students. We want to open the doors for students. And so if we don't give it a try, we're not going to know.
I'll also just mention like the elephant in the room, which is Wikipedia is like not cutting edge technology at all. It's like very archaic coding technology. And so in terms of using technology for innovation, though, is the innovation doesn't always have to be technological. It can be pedagogical as well. And so, Wikipedia not advanced, in the technological parameters of it, but also take risks for also like what's existing out there and try to find ways to creatively infuse technology into your pedagogy, even if whether it be the cutting edge or maybe the less cutting edge.
and I'm probably speaking to the choir because everybody who's in this room is an innovator. You showed up today because you're interested and you're innovating. But I do think it's changed the game. If it used to be that, professors could get away with the same content and the same, exams and the same methods semester after semester and just sort of go on autopilot, that has clearly changed. And so I do think we have a structural issue that maybe administration needs to hear from all of us is that we are now having to reinvent our game every single time. And we're going to have to grade differently. It's literally like a new prep every semester now because of how quickly everything is changing. And I do feel like we need to be putting the pressure back on administration that, the extras that they're loading onto us is a lot, given that our job is fundamentally changing and very, very rapidly. So I know you're all, nodding to me right now because y'all agree, but we've got to put that pressure back because we do need, more time and resources to be able to do the job well, which is clearly what we all want to do. So, yeah.
Really appreciate you saying that. I feel that too.
Yes.
And I hope that hearing it out loud in front of an audience reminds us all that we have a voice and we can make changes. We have a lot of freedom in our own classrooms to innovate and try things, even if they don't quite fit in like the system as we know it so far. So I think we have a little bit more time for audience Q&A. Would anyone maybe a couple questions? Yeah.
My question is for Timothy. I was really excited about your presentation because I really want to do a teaching with Wikipedia assignment. Um, my question is, does it have to be a whole semester assignment, or are there module ways to kind of incorporate smaller Wikipedia editing assignments, or is it just like too much for the students to learn to do it in like a couple weeks instead of 15?
It's very modular, very customizable, and I'm happy to like feel free to reach out to me in email. I'm happy to show you kind of under the hood. But the reason why I do it whole semester is because exactly as you're saying, the smaller kind of like write a sentence, add one source. They have 1 week to do each of those things. So like I build their skills as they go so that later as they commensurately have more knowledge from the readings in the course, they feel like they could write a paragraph, right? A new section. But it is absolutely customizable. You can probably have the entire assignment be just about adding sources to Wikipedia, right? Not writing two new sections, just updating the sources. Or you can have them, something I don't have my students do, which I think is more appropriate perhaps for potentially graduate level class, but maybe I'm really ambitious one day and want to do it, is to create a new page, a page that doesn't exist. I think if I were to do that, it would probably have to be like the whole class works on the page together, because that's a lot of extra work than just adding new sentences or new sources. But it's very customizable to your question. Yeah.
Dr. Williamson, this is for you. I just want to say thank you. Your work is really important as a breast cancer survivor, as a Googler. I wanted, my group of people wanted to know what the correct information was, and we just really appreciate you.
Here.
So all of these are discussing design solutions, and design thinking is really embedded in empathy practices. And so I'm wondering, for those who are using AI tools, or for those who aren't using AI tools, what sort of how is that being facilitated and enhanced or impacted? And maybe that's coming through in student reflections. I'd love to hear about that.
For us, in terms of prompt engineering, I want this to show me the product you're thinking in terms of design. I don't see the human aspect of it. So think about, from the perspective of the customer, what their needs are, what are the drivers of the problem, right? So redesign is in a way that actually the user aspect of the human side is, you integrate that. In terms of subsystem marketplace, we put the context of how people in these communities feel, think, relate, cope, sustain, right? So by just using this context, students need to be, in that microcosm when they're creating a solution. They compare the solution to the competition out there during the implementation operation. So I'm not going to accept it if your objective and mission for the business includes this business goal. I need to see it in your solution. I need to see this in your implementation. Sometimes it's training and awareness and things like that. So the design need to kind of be aligned with the business idea and the mission of the business, if it makes sense. We're going to do virtual reality immersion. So that's another aspect of empathy that maybe AI cannot show me that empathy, but we have other ways to be immersive and experience that perspective that we hope the student will take with them at the end of the semester.
Well, I was just going to say, because I'm the one helping her with the VR. So we're actually going to immerse them in 360 video in those communities, and that is partnered with that some of our colleagues have taken in those communities. And we think that 360 versus just watching in a 2D, there's a lot of research that shows, what that does in the brain. The cool thing is it's paired with actual interviews, as Andrea was mentioning, that they're talking to people in the community through, it's through a translator. But that also really helps them establish empathy. So now you're seeing the context, you're talking to the person live on the phone or through Zoom. And so I think that there's a huge amount of that design thinking empathy phase in that course and how it's designed, which is really quite brilliant.
The only thing I wanted to add to it is that when we have our community partners on the ground in Uganda and Tanzania, it's about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So they need to understand that when you are asking your questions and doing these interviews with people on the ground with a translator, know that they are in a completely different time zone, which means that it is really late. So, and also the technology, we appreciate the flexibility. Sometimes technology, we have glitches, right? Especially in these contexts, and the student have been flexible. Can I roll with the punches? But the technology is being very, working, right, Enrico? So that's also empathy. And I think sensitive questions, like culturally incompetent and appropriate questions, right? Even for the translator who is going to be kind of communicating between the interviewees. So those are things that we also kind of reinforce part of their skills.
I think.
Thank you all so much. We do have to wrap just to stay on schedule. I'm so sorry. It's a
Let me just say,
Yeah.
we can't forget who our customers are, right? Our students, and we need to pay attention to their needs. And so we need to be responsible when we're using AI and tools to really serve them.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.